You're listening to Surviving and Thriving with Renisha, a podcast about life, mental health, and personal growth. Here I talk about my journey living with borderline personality disorder, depression, and anxiety, and how I'm learning to love myself despite it. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, my name is Rennie. I actually recorded a full 40-minute rant this morning, and I was really just going through how much I've been struggling recently. For those of you who are new, hi, I am diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, BPD for short, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, trauma. Recently found out I'm neurodivergent, so lots of things, lots of labels, and I'm also a deeply spiritual person. And this morning I was kind of reflecting on and ranting about how much I've been struggling with depression, just really negative thoughts, existential thoughts. And trigger warning, I do talk about mental health in this. And so for those of you who aren't in a good space, hopefully I don't say anything as crazy as I did this morning. But I will say, after I recorded 40 minutes kind of trauma dumping and just reflecting on how much my childhood abuse and, all of the things that I've gone through, all of the issues I've had with relationships, the relationships that I've been healing, especially with men, with friendships, with myself. I struggled with self-loathing most of my life. I was really reflecting on all of the things that have caused me turmoil that I felt or have impact. My mic literally just, I don't even know what this is. My mic just broke. I don't know. Anyway. I'm just gonna scoot this closer. This is very candid. I don't script. I don't write out any of my stuff for my podcast. I'm sorry if the audio is trash. My mic just broke. I recorded 40 minutes this morning. I lost all that audio. It didn't work. Now I know it's because my microphone is broken. But honestly, it gave me a chance to because I was ranting so much about all of the abuse that I'd gone through in my childhood, all of the relationship issues, marital issues. I've been married twice. I was divorced before. I'm co-parenting. I have a son with autism. I'm remarried. Had been having marital issues again, started to get fixated on random people again, the typical BPD stuff. If you know anything about BPD, then you know. If you know anything about complex trauma, then you know. But for those of you who don't, I'm someone who has historically struggled with splitting, fixation behaviors, which I'm now trying to understand in the context of autism as well. But basically, I grew up very rough. I ranted all about it in the episode that didn't survive. It was really bad. I was abused in every form you could think of, I've experienced since I was a very young child. My mom was incarcerated when I was a kid. My dad was absent. My grandma, who raised me as a young child, passed away. I lost 2 siblings very gruesomely. And I'm rushing through all of these things now because as I was talking about it earlier, I realized how challenging it is for me and how detached and disassociated I get when I talk about the way that I grew up. And I just feel like for most of my life, I felt like I just never could catch a break. Even when I got older and I was thinking I'm finally out of these environments, I get to decide now what happens with my life. It took me so much time to realize that I was fully in survival mode. I wasn't controlling. I thought I was controlling everything. I thought I could decide who my friends are now, who my relationships are now, everything's gonna be fine. And quickly realized that that's not the case. And the trauma and the experiences that I had have really shaped how I perceive the world, how I perceive other people, how I interact, how I show up. And it was only recently that I realized for most of my life, I've been hiding and not really showing my true self. And, you know, I was beating myself up even in the rant this morning, thinking like I always scare people away. But in reality, what it's been is that like these maladaptive coping behaviors that I developed, like the fixating on people to the point to where for them it feels overwhelming, right? It feels like overwhelming. It feels like I'm like they're scared of me now, right? They're scared. I'm not actually showing who I am at all. Half the time, the people that I have scared away or have distanced themselves from me once I started showing like BPD behaviors like fixations or splitting, which is like black or white thinking, kind of flipping between idealizing people or situations to completely hating and like devaluing and dismissing people and situations, flipping between that. I was doing these types of things so often, but all of these things aren't me. And for so long, I was identifying with BPD, the label, depression, the label, anxiety, trauma, all of these things. And the deeper I get into my healing journey, and even today, as I was like frustrated about how I'm so sick of healing and I'm so sick of fighting every day and finding it so hard to be happy, I realized like none of these things are me. Like I'm not BPD, I'm not anxiety or depression, I'm not the trauma or the things that I've gone through. And if you're someone that's in this position and maybe you are like me and you're diagnosed with BPD and you feel like, damn, another person's blocked me. Because if you have BPD, you know, right? Like we scare people. We scare people away. And it's like they don't even really get the chance to see who we actually are. There are very few people who really know who I am, like for real. And the people who do know who I am, the things that they say to me about who I am overwhelms me because I'm not used to it. I'm not used to like this depth of love that I'm receiving in my life right now. And I realized recently that it scares me. Like after a lifetime of fighting to just relax and be at ease, it's like there has been a part of me that didn't trust that for so long. And so if you're someone that you've been struggling for so long, you've been struggling trying to heal from trauma, trying to heal from like abuse or, you know, harmful relationships, or just fighting through like self-loathing or low self-esteem and just trying to find yourself in this world and feeling like you're hiding or you're performing and you're not like you don't even get the chance to show people who you are, feeling like every time, you know, there's a relationship, you're having these like maladaptive coping mechanisms where maybe you struggle with avoidance, or maybe you struggle with codependency. I've struggled with both of those things. And you're like, I don't even get a chance to open up, to fully feel safe enough to open up for people to see who I am, who I really am inside, because these trauma responses, these really unhealthy and frustrating and scary trauma responses, it was like something else was existing in my place because I didn't feel safe enough to. And I've used different terms for it for so long. I would say like, oh, it's my shadow side. Like it's not me. It's just like, you know, when I grew up in religious settings, I would even think that I was possessed when I was younger because I didn't understand like this side of myself. And now I just know it's just an attempt to protect me. Like I developed these maladaptive coping mechanisms because I didn't feel safe in the world. And so anytime there was perceived rejection or abandonment or something that could cause me more harm, because I still have these wounds that haven't even closed, that haven't had a chance, because more and more shit keeps happening, I would just lash out. I would just flip out, or I would, you know, cling to something that I felt like was good. Um, I was talking about in my last podcast episode about how I noticed that when I felt safe with people, I would just get like codependent or clingy or attached or fixated. And I was really sitting with that because I'm frustrated, and some old patterns, some unhealthy patterns I thought I'd healed through have resurfaced where I started to fixate again. And I haven't done that because I've been married for the last like 3 years. I've been in a relationship for the last 5 years. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like I have a person. And even though things have been tough, a lot, mostly because we both have issues, like we both had childhood trauma. But things have been tough and I understand why. And I'm doing these things again, these things I thought I moved past. And so, healing isn't linear, and we go through these cycles where things resurface. And I realized that the way that I'm responding to it this time, like, even though I was slipping back into old patterns, I've learned so much. Like, I can see clearly what's happening. I can see, like, I'm fixated because this person made me feel safe. And maybe in this phase of my life, I don't feel safe or fully seen. And so instead of having these unhealthy coping mechanisms where I feel like I'm pushing against something that, like, I'm pushing against a wall, or I'm forcing my way into something, or somewhere where I'm not fully really wanted, to be honest, how about I just be completely honest, like completely honest with myself and with the people that I care about? And so some situations I've tried to do that, and some situations I realized like I was shutting myself down and I was sedating myself. And I I just sat with it this time. I feel like for most of my life, when these feelings would come up, I would just succumb to it. I just thought it was who I was. And now I'm realizing it's not who I am. Like, you are not the things that you learn to survive. Like, you're not the maladaptive coping skills that you had to develop to get through things that you should have never gone through to begin with. Your value is not dependent on whether someone sees you, sees the real you, sticks around for you, hears you, like how they treat you. You're none of these things at all. And the more that I sit, the more that I reflect, the more I have like stillness, the more I can start to see who I actually am. And the more I can stop hiding. And the more I stop hiding, the more I actually bring in more love and more of the things that I've always wanted. Bring in more people who actually see me, like the actual me, not the person that I had been to survive, not the version of me that needed to be tough or needed to be fucking, I hate using the word crazy, but like not fully present, not settled and grounded in reality. I lived a lot of my life in here because I felt safer than I did in my body, because my body wasn't treated with respect throughout most of my life. I stopped using my voice properly because I didn't feel heard. And it's taken me until now, and I'm 32 now, to really start to understand that I don't have to live this way. In my rent this morning, I was frustrated, feeling like I'm so sick of like these labels, these diagnoses attached to me. I'm sick of identifying and feeling like someone who's crazy. I'm sick of having BPD and splitting and fixating on people who don't really care about me, to be honest, and don't know me, and people I don't even really know. I'm sick of like not being fully present or feeling grounded or safe in my body. So I disassociate and I'm just in some other world in my head, and I can't be present, and I'm always anxious and I'm always afraid. And then the more I sat with it, the more I was like, I'm none of these things. Like, they're not me. They aren't who you are. You aren't the things you're feeling or experiencing, or the pain that you feel, or the trauma you've experienced, or the people who've let you down. Like, and for so long, I didn't realize I was identifying with those things to the point to where it made me hate myself and hate my life. Because I thought that everything about me was wrong because of these experiences. Like, every time someone rejected me, I thought it was about me. Most of the time it's not. The more that I've like had conversations with people, like real conversations, because our society is so inauthentic, and the way we show up is like a performance all the time. We have to perceive each other as good or positive or fine. It's like we live in a world where so much terrible things are happening, and the fact that we have to sit and pretend we're okay when so many of us are not only healing from trauma and abuse and neglect and heavy things. So many of us, so many women, so many people. um there are so many people who are in pain and who are struggling and are healing from things. There are people who are dealing with chronic illnesses, mental illnesses, addiction. And then you look at the news every day and there's so much going on in the world. Why are we pretending? Why are we showing up and pretending, right? But we do that. And so we don't even really get to see the other person. But then when we do, when we have those moments where we can be very real, the more I sit and have those authentic, real conversations, the more I stop taking things so personally, the more I stop making it about me and about what I lack and about me not being worthy or not being good enough. And the more I realize it's never been about me. It's never been about me. And the love that I'm like so ready to give to everybody else, I can give it to myself at any moment. And it's just, I have to learn how. And no one talks about that when they're talking about healing. They just make it seem like it's something you innately know how to do. But if you never had that, not everyone grew up with loving parents. I didn't grow up with that. So you don't know how to do it if you've never seen it. You've never experienced it. It's something you have to learn. And it's something that I've been learning, like getting to know myself the way that I would with a person that I consider that I was excited about, way that I used to be excited about and put people on these pedestals because it gave me some type of comfort to do so. I'm doing that with myself now. I'm sitting with myself. I'm journaling. I'm like getting to know who I actually am and what I actually care about. And it's been really interesting to kind of date myself in a way and get to know myself in this way. And I realize how hard I am on myself. Like every time I make a mistake and I, have a perceived failure, it's like I'm ready to just give up everything. And it's something that I've been really working to unlearn, this black or white, all or nothing thinking. Like just because someone rejects you doesn't mean you're not, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. And just because someone can't hear you doesn't mean you shouldn't use your voice. You shouldn't show up. And so it's this, all of this has been coming up as I've been reflecting on like my healing and recovery as someone that's gone through years and years of like, navigating the traditional mental health system, going through like, I was inpatient like 4 times, going through like so many outpatient programs. I've done like intensive outpatient programs at least 2 or 3 times. I've done DPT twice. I've done CBT once. These are like 6 week, intensive things. And it's like, there are some things that I learned in there that help for sure. But for the most part, a lot of the things that have helped me the most are things that I learned from sitting with myself and going within. And it sounds so cliche. And it sounds easy when you say it, which frustrates me because it makes it seem like this process isn't hard, but it's extremely hard. It's extremely hard to feel comfortable being present, to learn to feel safe in your body. And I recommend somatic healing practices for that if you're someone who has intense trauma like me, especially if you're someone who felt like or experienced your body being violated in any way. Um, those things, learning how to be grounded and present, I'm still working on. But the more that I do, the more I learn how to sit in stillness, the more I sit with myself, the more I have introspection that doesn't revolve around everyone else's opinions or thoughts about me, like someone I'm interested in or someone I love or someone I'm friends with, like what they think, when it's just, what do I think? How do I feel? Why do I feel this way? Is it attached to this experience or this person or that person, and why? The more I did that, the more I started to kind of unlock who I am and who I'm not and what I'm worthy of and what I don't deserve and what I never deserved. And now I can sit here and say to other people struggling that it's not about you. It's not. And I don't mean this in like a callous way. I mean this in like the way that other people treat you it truly is about whatever they're going through, right? If someone can't show up for you or don't want to show up for you, it's not about you. It's not because you're not worth it. It's not because you don't deserve it. Every single person, regardless of whether I like them or not, deserves to feel loved. And I truly believe that a lot of the issues that we see in the world is a lack of love. And it's just people moving from a place of fear or greed or lack, like they lack something, that they feel like they don't have enough of something, whether it's money or love or support or attention, whatever it is, right? But the truth is, you have all of it. We are capable of all of those things. We're capable of giving ourselves what we need for the most part, right? I know we live in a system. I know there are systemic injustices, but when it comes to things like love and support and being seen and being heard, community is so important, yes. But me sitting and learning what needs I can actually provide for myself, how can I show up for myself? What does that look like? Um, it has been a game changer. And it's something that I am reflecting on now as I sit and just process everything that I've kind of ranted about today as I was sharing just like my painful experiences and my frustrations with being mentally ill and just like continuously healing and moving through these challenging, coping skills and survival things that I'm unlearning every day. It's been tough. It's been tough. And if you're someone that's going through it, I see you. Like, you are not alone. Like, it is possible for us to have a better life. Earlier I was saying, will I ever be happy? Like, my whole life, I feel like it's been a fight. I mean, just getting up in the morning felt like a struggle, just getting out of bed, just like doing the basics, just like basic needs, taking care of myself felt like such a chore. It feels like such a chore. And a lot of times, sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions and I'm just waiting for it to be over. Whenever I would be in the mental hospital, I used to say to the therapist, like, I feel like I'm just waking up every day and waiting for this life to be over. Like, I'm just over it. I'm tired. And I feel like the more I sit with that and reflect on the things that I've been through and the experiences I've had and the letdowns and the abuse and the pain, it's just been a lot of pain. It's normal to feel this way. And I think what makes it harder to heal is the fact that we oftentimes beat ourselves up for this. Like, why aren't we living like so and so? We're comparing ourselves to someone else's life, or we're frustrated that we can't be happy. And it's like, sometimes you just need to sit in that. Sometimes you just need to acknowledge that that's how you feel. Like, you feel like life is shitty and it's hard. And for a lot of us, it has been. Like, you are in pain. And I feel like because our culture doesn't really hold space for victims or people who've gone through things, we hate the word victim. We demonize that, right? We don't want to feel like a victim, but sometimes we are. And sometimes we do go through things that we should have never gone through. If you've ever been harmed or abused in any way, you didn't deserve that. It's not like you asked for that. If you ever been neglected or abandoned, especially by the people you love, again, didn't ask for that, right? And so, of course you don't want to be here and be in a world where you feel unwanted and unloved. Of course you feel that way. So if no one's validating that feeling for you, then hi, hello, I'm validating that for you right now. And I hope that this encourages you to validate that for yourself, because we're not supposed to live a life of just pain. So if that's almost all you've experienced throughout most of your life, then you didn't deserve that. You don't deserve that. And you do deserve to be happy. And despite what some of these so-called doctors and therapists will tell you, you can be happy. It is possible. It takes a shit ton of work, and it takes support, and it takes like being willing to and able to move past your fear and being willing to do things scared, being willing to try things a different way. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work and support. And I know that I'm lucky because I have found someone who's willing to be there for me throughout like my absolute worst. And that's really hard because most people haven't. Most people will leave in a heartbeat. Like, as soon as I show, and I could tell people all day that I have complex trauma and BPD. I could say it a million times. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's fine. I mean, oh, this and that." As soon as I show them those symptoms, they're gone. They're gone. So it's hard for me to even trust and open up in relationships to people because I know that it's bullshit for most people when they say, like, I can handle this, or, I'm okay with mental health issues, until it's like a cluster B. Like, most people can't deal with people with narcissistic personality disorder, right? I've experienced that. I have some mirroring behaviors of that from my experiences with dealing with people like that. Most people have trouble dealing with people who have, identity disorders and so forth. And so personality disorder, I'm up there, cluster B, and I hate the DSM. But it's true. We get so stigmatized, and people will come into our lives and be like, no, we can do it. We can handle it. And then it's like the second you have an episode, the second you show any type of symptom, it's bye, sorry, bye. And people have a right to do that, right? but it can make it difficult when you are trying to heal, especially if you don't come from a family where you have support, and a lot of us don't, right? And so I just want to validate that whatever you're feeling is fine, and you're not a bad person. Anyone, all of us, we're all capable of good and bad. And those of us who have these maladaptive coping behaviors that can be terrible, because I'm not going to lie, mine are scary. I've had very aggressive behaviors, very scary behaviors. I've harmed myself. I've tried to harm others in the past. I've been hospitalized as a result of both of those things. I'm not here to make excuses about it, but I am here to say that there is a very valid reason, and that the things that you experience in early childhood quite literally change your brain chemistry. And thankfully, neuroplasticity is a real thing. You can rewire your brain, but it takes hella work. It takes so much effort. It's exhausting. And without support, it's really, really hard. And a lot of people give up. And so I just want to say that you fighting your own internal battles every day shouldn't go unnoticed, and you shouldn't have to do it alone. And just because people don't understand doesn't mean you deserve it, or doesn't mean you're even a bad person. You're someone who's in pain and you need help. Again, not an excuse for harming other people, but there's a reason why, right? It's not, you're not just doing this shit for fun. It's because you are in pain and you haven't learned a better way yet. But there are better ways. And there, as someone who's learning, I'm just here to offer that up because I'm struggling right now and I need that reminder for myself as much as I feel like I need to give it to others. But I've been so blessed in the past year. So many good people have come into my life, and while I've lost people and I continue to push people away, scare people away, self-sabotage, all the things, that my trauma brings up for me, I also have people that I do feel safe enough to be honest with. And like I tell my partner everything, every single thing, like he knows everything. And it's sometimes I feel like shit because of it, because it's like I'm causing harm to people I love and I don't want to. But it's such a blessing to have people who genuinely care. So if you do have that, someone is losing their mind. If you do have that, then be grateful, reach out to those people. And I'm trying to build a community where we can come together and support each other and support what has worked for each of us, because it's so different for everybody. And I truly don't want anyone to feel this way. So anyway, if you're finding this video, this podcast, I want you to know that you deserve to feel loved. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a full life. And I hope that you don't feel like giving up or feel like things will never get better, because as hard as things can change. So much has changed for me. There was so many periods of my life, especially when I was like at my worst, in and out of the hospitals, where I was like, I'll never have people who want to be in my life. I'll never have people who really get to know me, because I keep, these behaviors are scaring people away. I'll never have people who really see me. And it's crazy how many people have come into my life, even in the past year, and just proven me wrong. And even though some of these behaviors still came out, and I've still split on people, I've still like, you know, gone through, typical BPD fixations and, idealizing people and then devaluing people, or, going from being very apathetic to very empathetic, like all of these mood swings and flips, and it's just my brain exhausting me, right? Even despite all that, so many amazing people and opportunities and things have come into my life because I'm trying. I'm trying my hardest to show up as my true self and to heal and to let people in, like truly let them in. And so I just encourage you to keep trying. I know it's so hard. If I could give any of you who are watching this or seeing this a hug, I would give you a hug and tell you it's not okay, but it can be, right? I hate when people say it's okay when it's not. So I'm not going to ever say that, but it can be. And as long as you keep reminding yourself that, like, nothing is permanent, these depressive episodes, they can't last forever, like literally forever. We don't even last forever. Okay. There are about 9 billion people in this world, and I promise you, just because your FP doesn't text you back doesn't mean there isn't someone else in the world who is so ready and willing and like excited to love you. And just because the people that maybe you grew up with and maybe you wish loved you can't show up the way that you want them to, doesn't mean there aren't other people ready and willing to. You probably haven't even met all the people who will love you. There's so many people, like when I sit and look at my life now compared to like when I was going through some of the worst moments of my life, none of these people existed. Like my son, who is like 10 now, my partner, my friends, like a lot of the people I'm closest to and feel safest with, I did not know they existed like a decade ago or 5 years ago. And so it's beautiful knowing that even now there could be so many more people that I have yet to meet that will come in and change my life and just pour into me, and I can pour into them in ways that I never thought was possible. So basically, the universe just keeps proving me wrong. And I just truly hope that if you're watching this, that you are blessed in this way and that that can happen for you. I know it can. Um, it's hard to believe it when all you've known is the contrary, the contrast, right? But it's possible. And so I'll leave you with that. I'm sending y'all love. I will send all my socials and stuff that I'm working on in the description if you want to check me out or stay connected. But otherwise, I'm sending so much love. So much love. Yeah. Till next time. Bye.